guys, I'm going to explain how to use the distance formula. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you the old way that we did it and then see how it's related to this new way. This new way, the distance formula, is a shortcut. So you get to choose if you want to use this way or the other way. You can get the same answers both ways. So we would use the distance formula if someone gives us 2 points and we don't want to graph it. The distance formula is a shortcut that makes you not have to graph. But we have learned how to figure out this distance, figure out this length by graphing. So we're going to start with graphing. If you remember, we drive up and then drive over to make a right triangle. We're going to count our sides of this right triangle and use the Pythagorean theorem to find the length of d, that distance. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces up and 1, 2, 3 spaces over. We're going to use that 4 and that 3 to find the length of the distance by using the Pythagorean theorem. So that distance squared is equal to 4 squared plus 3 squared. That's just the Pythagorean theorem. The legs squared add up to equal the hypotenuse squared. So far, are we okay? I hope. Okay, so I'm going to finish this. I have d squared equals 16 plus 9. I have d squared equals 25. Then I take the square root of both sides, and I get d equals 5. Straighten that out. Okay, so that's not too surprising. 3, 4, 5 is that common triangle that we've seen, and we've got that. This is not the new formula. What I want you to do is to see if I didn't want to draw it, but I was given this number here, 5, 7, and this value here, this point here, 2, 3. How could I get the 4 and the 3 from these numbers? So your job right now, you're going to pause the video and you're going to think, how can I get 5 and 7 and 2 and 3 to give me 4 and 3? What could I do with those numbers to get 4 and 3? You're going to try a bunch of things and most of them won't work, and that's okay. I want you to think through, how could I get 4 and 3 from these? Can I add things? Can I subtract things? Why would I get 4 and 3? So pause the video. See how you can get 5, 7, 2, and 3 to give you 4 and 3. Think about, can I add things? Can I subtract things? Can I multiply by something, divide by something? What can you do? Okay, I'm going to pause the video and then you unpause when you're ready. Okay, have you thought about it? Okay, I hope so. Here's how we're going to do it. I can take, trying to get no glare, I can take the 5 and the 7 and the 2 and the 3, and I can subtract them. Did you notice that? 5 minus 2 is going to give me 3. 7 minus 3 is going to give me 4. So if I subtract those coordinates, I can get the sides of the triangle right away without having to draw it. I don't have to draw it or count it. I can just say, hey, 5 and 2 are 3 spaces apart, and 7 and 3 are 4 spaces apart. If you look at the graph, this one here is saying, here's 3 and here's 7, and they're 4 spaces apart. Here's 2 and here's 5, and they're 3 spaces apart. So you can do the same thing on the graph, but we don't need the graph to do it. We can just subtract and get those same values. Now we take the 3 and the 4, and we set up our same Pythagorean theorem, d squared equals 3 squared plus 4 squared. And if you look, it's going to be the same problem that we have over here. So now I'm going to write the actual distance formula, and it's going to look complicated, but I'll explain it. So I'm going to pause for a second so I can write it, and then I'll explain. Okay, so what we did is we took the x values, the 5 and the 2, which are the x values, and I subtracted those x values. Then I took the 7 and the 3, which are the y values, and subtracted those y values. Once I got those differences, I took them over here and I squared them. Then I added those squares, and then I square rooted. That's what the formula says to do. It looks so complicated. It's right here at the bottom. It looks super complicated, but all it says is take your x values, subtract them, and square them. Take your y values, subtract them, square them. Add those squares, take the square root, and you get the distance. In the next video, I'm going to sing a song, and you're going to sing it with me. You're going to memorize this. Okay, good luck.